What's happening, fam? John here from AF Anime. We are back to review yet another chapter of One Piece, this time chapter 1051, which is titled Shogun of Wano Kozuki Momonosuke. Now, I admit that this chapter is a bit slow in pace, especially in comparison to the last few chapters that we've got, but that doesn't necessarily take away from the fact that it still is an amazing chapter and very impactful. But before I get into that, I'll quickly talk about the cover page. There honestly isn't a whole lot to unpack here. It's just an image of the four Germa siblings walking in the middle of the street, confidently strutting as they make their escape. Now, I'm not really sure if this is just an image of them emerging from the lab that they were just in, or if they're really feeling that kind of way, as if nobody can challenge them at this point and they're just going to walk right out of Big Mom's territory. And I could see this working. If this whole incident takes place right after Luffy and them left, then it's possible that Big Mom's forces are still reeling from the failed Tea Party. If Katakuri is out of the picture and all of the other strong commanders are either in Wano or still healing from the events that just occurred, then it's possible that no one really could stop them from doing anything they wanted at this point. But I will say that if they just flat out escape without doing anything further, then this could signal the end of this cover story. Since escaping Big Mom's land or reuniting the Germa family is kind of the point of the cover story, then it's possible that this might just be the end of it. Although I will say that I kind of wouldn't mind seeing the Germa family story continuing a little bit, maybe for some character progression or them possibly playing a role in some event in the near future. But I suppose we'll just have to wait and see what Oda is planning to do with this Germa family. So now we can go ahead and move on with the chapter's contents, more specifically the first couple pages where the people of Wano get the reveal that the 9 red scabbards are alive, or at the very least most of them. Notably, the 2 red scabbards who are currently missing from this event are Ashura Doji and Izo. Now, if you remember, it's implied that both of these characters are likely to be dead. Now, obviously Oda has a weird thing about not killing off people, especially ones who remain off screen for a while, but I think it could be telling that we don't actually see them here with the 9 red scabbards being revealed, and thus validating Lady Toki's prophecy. So I suppose for now this is going to have to remain an unresolved matter, but ultimately this moment seems very cool, and there's some small details that kind of make this even better, like the fact that the first 3 scabbards who were revealed in the chapter to the public are Denjiro, Kinemon, and Kawamatsu. And if you don't remember, these 3 characters are specifically the main scabbards who took it upon themselves to protect the Kozuki heirs after the events of the castle burning down. Of course, every scabbard who is present does get a panel of their own to shine, but the best one by far has to go to Kinemon, who hits this nasty pose as he reveals himself to the people of Wano. In any case, we also have this concept of light scrolls being present, where essentially it broadcasts things to the entirety of Wano, and it looks like we hit every region, but one that is worth note is the panel here of Udon, where the light scroll does come on, but we see that Babanuki is saying that they got more important things to worry about than what's going on the light scroll. And if you can remember from last week's chapter, Udon seems to be the area that was focused on by Oda when the earthquake initiated. Now, we only get one panel of Udon here, but it should be pretty clear that something big is about to go down in that area if it hasn't started already. My best guess is that Big Mom and Kaido are going to re-emerge, and Udon is likely the place where they will re-emerge. And with the way that things went for this chapter, or more specifically the moments that we got with certain characters, I do think that Udon will be a central focus for next week's chapter. I guess the next topic of discussion for this chapter would be Yamato finally meeting the rest of the Straw Hat Pirates, and it pretty much goes about how everyone expected. Frankie initially freaks out when he hears that Yamato is Kaido's son, and then thinks that there is more fighting to do, as if he didn't remember that he's already encountered Yamato and they helped each other. But I suppose we'll just have to chalk that up to Oda forgetting, or even Frankie forgetting. Brook and Sanji have the reaction that we all expected they would have. After Yamato states that they're going to be joining the Straw Hats on their crew, Frankie is just like, what? And then we got Nami and Usopp freaking out. We got Brook and Sanji simping about the idea of her joining. Robin honestly just thinks the whole situation is funny. And Jinbei, of course, who is the more stern character among the Straw Hats, is like, yeah, that's great intentions, but that's ultimately up to Luffy. After this, Otama does get a little bit of shine in this chapter, where we get a bit of a flashback with her, as well as a bit of a confirmation about the exact way that her devil fruit operates. For any animal or smile fruit user who are under the effects of her devil fruit, after about a month, once the lunar phase reaches the same as when they were converted, they will be presented an option of going back to having their own free will or remaining as servants or friends to Otama. And this kind of sets up a cute moment where Otama wants Lady Speed, or Horselina, to become her mommy. Aw. Anyway, the flashback basically gives us a little bit of information about how Otama made her living. Obviously, we knew that she was making hats and selling them, but we see that this kind of sets her up to meet Tenguyama. And since he's fairly confident in Lady Toki's prophecy, he just tells her that they got a few more years to hang in there, and then eventually Wano will be free. Also, in this flashback, it is revealed that Otama's parents both worked in factories, and these factories were producing a lot of toxic waste, and a lot of people died while working there. So conveniently, both of her parents passed away. And the way that Otama was used in this chapter at first was annoying me about how much time she was consuming, but the way it's kind of written out and it's interjected in between jumps in time, and as well as the reveal of Momonosuke and her response to it, I think it actually turns out to be a pretty good narrative. Speaking of the reveal of Momonosuke, it's arguably the biggest part of this chapter. For one, he starts off in this silhouette in the smoke with all of the scabbards kneeling, as well as Hiyori, and I gotta say it's probably my favorite panel of the chapter. Then he goes into a speech where he's assuring the people of Wano that the ordeal with Kaido and Orochi is done and over with. They got nothing to worry about. And during the speech is intercut with some images and some other characters, but we see that his hand's shaking in this one panel right here, and he looks to Kinemon for a little bit of advice. So it does double down the idea that this is in fact still an 8-year-old boy who's taking responsibility for an entire country onto his shoulders, even promising as much to make the land of Wano a paradise. We are then treated to this panel of the full reveal of Momonosuke in his aged state, and honestly I think it's a dope character design, probably even better than Oden's in my opinion. There are still some aspects of how Oden looks, his eyebrows, the style of his hair, but he doesn't look exactly like his father. He still is his own man. So I think Oda did a really good job thinking out how to do this reveal, because having it intercut with his speech and then his trembling hand showing his actual age really just kind of solidifies the moment that we've all been waiting for, and it's been building up since Momonosuke was first introduced as this prideful kid who thought himself to be the rightful ruler of a nation. Just really good writing from Oda in this chapter. We get the culmination of all of this stuff from this chapter's events, the flashbacks, the speech, the reveal, and then we see that the entirety of Wano in this panel is celebrating the return of Momonosuke. And the last page of this chapter is just amazing. Now, from what I can tell, the last page is dedicated to just some general narration, and I'll go ahead and read it off to you. It says, "And when the warrior at last sheathed his blade to sky the day to come, danced with spinning, fluttering petals. This is the land of samurai. Here under the night blossom stands a handsome man of 8. Blessed with great dedication and mercy and a level of strength that can be forgiven. This is the birth of the man who would later be known around the world as the great shogun of Wano, Kozuki Momonosuke." Ladies and gentlemen, that is just amazing writing. And that's not it. The amazing writing is accompanied with some very powerful images. We get to see that Momonosuke and Hiyori are finally reunited as they embrace in a hug, and then the final panel of the chapter is of the scabbards and Momonosuke heading to their palace. It's an amazing looking panel and a clutch way to end this chapter. So if I had to give this chapter a rating, it's going to be a 10 out of 10. Despite the fact that there is no fighting or no conflict in this chapter, it still manages to be amazingly hype. The story is fantastic. It's well paced despite the fact that we get a flashback and we check in with multiple characters, and the artwork did not slack off in this chapter whatsoever. Everything looks amazing, especially the panels with the scabbards and Momonosuke. So as I said, it's definitely going to be a 10 out of 10 for me, despite the fact that there's no action. It's just an amazingly satisfying way to wrap up the events of Wano, if in fact they are wrapped up. Now, in terms of whether or not it is actually wrapped up, I do have my own thoughts on that, and I do think for the most part the conflict, the fighting, the battling is done and over with. And my main reasoning for that is the finality of a lot of the situations that we see here within this chapter. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the events that we get in this chapter are kind of synonymous with the ending of an arc or a conflict when it comes to beating the big bad. For one, we have the whole light scroll thing where the entirety of Wano is now capable to learn of Momonosuke's return. We get the epic moment of Momonosuke actually returning and making the speech and declarations that he did. We get the flashback of Otama getting the promise from Tenguyama about Momonosuke returning and the Kozuki saving the day. And then we see her celebratory tears, crying in the arms of Nami when she realizes that all the trouble she's had is over. Also, we got the reunion of Hiyori and Momonosuke, which was supposed to be held off until everything was said and done. So yeah, ultimately I do think that Wano is for the most part done and over with. We do obviously have a lot of things that are still yet to be resolved, like the fate of Izo and Ashura Doji, and of course Luffy's still unconscious, but we still do need to have some form of celebration when it comes to Luffy's victory. And in regards to Big Mom and Kaido, I do actually think that they are still alive and we will be seeing them here shortly. Maybe they'll get a chapter of their own, but I'll do a separate video on my thoughts for the future of Big Mom and Kaido here within the next couple days. But in any case, that's all I got for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. Definitely leave some comments down below, your thoughts on the chapter. What were your favorite moments? As you guys know, I am John from AF Anime. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. It'd be great for the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. In any case, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for tuning in.